Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. It's me, your girl, Miss Lynn Marie Styles, the edgy Christian. Welcome back. And if you're new here, hey girl, welcome. So in today's vlog, I'm going to talk about what it was like for me being a part of Jehovah's organization, growing up as a Jehovah Witness. I'm going to talk about the bad, the good, and the ugly. So if you want to know what that was like for me, then keep on watching. So, I want to talk about a few characters that I'm gonna refer to in this story, okay? And I think that this video is gonna be like a part 1, part 2, part 3, or a series type of thing, because I have so much to talk about when it comes to being a part of this organization. I have so much to talk about as far as like religion trauma. So this is probably just going to be one of many videos that I post and get out to you guys. But I'm hoping that somebody come across this video, because I don't have like a lot of followers and I don't get a lot of views. But it's not about the followers, it's not about the views, it's about that one person that I can make a difference for. So if that's you, I hope that you find deliverance in this video and you find comfort in this video, knowing that somebody out there has been through the same thing you've been through, okay? So just some of the key characters in the story you're going to hear me refer to a lot is Sister Elegance. She was a sister that I studied with when I was part of Jehovah's organization. Sister Sweets. She took me camping and she was just so very sweet to me. You're going to hear me refer to the cool auntie, Auntie Baby Girl, and the abusive auntie. They were sisters. They have another sister and a brother who was not a part of Jehovah's organization, so you won't hear me refer to them as much, but you're going to definitely hear me refer to the cool auntie, Auntie Baby Girl, and the abusive auntie. You're also going to hear me refer to my cousin, which is the child of the abusive auntie. And there's a few other people you'll hear me refer to as well, but I'll just, you know, give you the details along the way. So I was introduced to Jehovah's organization at the age of 13. And with Jehovah's organization, you're either brought into the organization or you're born into the organization. I was brought into the organization. My uncle, who you'll also hear me refer to, I love him dearly. He was like a father to me. He was like the only male figure in my life. So, my uncle was a Jehovah's Witness, and his wife at the time was also a Jehovah's Witness. Now, my uncle didn't grow up in Jehovah's organization, so he was brought into it as well. But I believe his wife, who is the abusive auntie, I believe she was like raised in Jehovah's organization. So I was introduced to Jehovah's organization at the age of 13. And the reason it came about was I was living with my uncle and the abusive auntie. This was his wife, okay? My mom battled addiction. She battled drug addiction. She battled alcohol addiction. She was in and out of prison during this time, and she was going in and out of rehab trying to get her life together. So my uncle and the abusive auntie was my guardian. Once upon a time, me and my 2 siblings lived with them. Then they sent us to a group home, and I came back from the group home to stay with them. But my siblings went to another group home together, okay? So I think I want to start with some of the good things about Jehovah's organization that I really enjoy. So some of the good things that I really enjoyed was I enjoyed giving talks. Okay, they will have, like, I think it was called Theocratical Ministry School. We will go there every Friday, and it will be meetings. They don't go to church, they go to the Kingdom Hall. So we will go to the Kingdom Hall on Fridays, on Sundays, and on Tuesdays. Not the Kingdom Hall on Tuesday. We will go to somebody's house on Tuesdays for book study, but on Fridays and Sundays we will go to the Kingdom Hall for meetings. And every Friday they will have like Theocratical School Ministry, and you will be given a talk, and it's like the women will be on stage giving talk, and they don't have like women as ministers or, you know, women who speak the gospel on the podium, on the, you know, stage. But the women will give talks, and it would be like you and another sister, and y'all will be giving a talk or whatever. So I really enjoy giving talks because giving talks really helped me with public speaking. Okay, and I say that because, like, even now with my current employer, we do like morning huddles, and everyone loves when I do the huddle. I'm just so animated. I just, you know, I give gestures, I'm well spoken, and I would definitely have to give that credit to giving talks at the Kingdom Hall. It really helped build up public speaking, and it helped with like just speaking in front of audience. So I definitely love giving talks. I loved gatherings. They will always have gatherings. Like, it will be a gathering for any and everything. Like, every time you looked up, it was always a gathering. I really enjoyed going to the gatherings with the friends. It was always food. It was always fun. You know, we really enjoyed that. So I will always have fun doing that. And there was always like weddings. People were always getting married. I really enjoyed that. One of my favorite events that I attend being a part of Jehovah's organization was Auntie Baby Girl's wedding. Auntie Baby Girl had got married, and I wasn't in the wedding, but the abusive auntie was in the wedding. And oh my gosh, I never forget, I was so beautiful that day. My cousin had did my hair. It was so cute. I had on this real pretty dress. I don't know where that dress came from, but it was so beautiful. It was like a green dress, and it had bedazzle on the chest part of the dress, and it was like a spaghetti strap type of dress, but it was so beautiful. And I've never felt so beautiful in my life being a part of Jehovah's organization. Like, I really felt very beautiful at this event, and I had met my crush there. You're gonna hear me refer to my crush later on. Maybe not in this video, but in another video. But we'll just call my crush TJ2. Okay? He was so smooth, and he was so handsome. Okay? And TJ2 father was an elder. So an elder is like an equivalent to a pastor. And TJ2 had other siblings. He had an older brother and like 2 younger brothers, and every last one of them name started with a T. So we'll call the other brother TJ1. Okay, so I had a crush on TJ2. I met him at the wedding. We were dancing and stuff. Like, he was really smooth. We were like, I think we had to be like 14 or something like that. I don't know. I can't remember. Maybe 15. But we were very young. But he was smooth for a young brother. I ain't even gonna hold you. And my cousin had a best friend. We'll call her DE. Okay, and DE had a crush on TJ1. Okay, and they really liked each other, and I really liked TJ2. Again, I'll come back to that. But another thing we would do in the organization is we would take these camping trips. I love that. Every year we would go camping, and I think we would go camping at like Indiana Beach. And you know, we will be at the campgrounds, and then from the campground we'll walk to like the theme park. So we did that like every year right before we would go back to school. It would be a lot of friends doing that with us. So that was really, really fun. Another good thing that I really enjoyed about Jehovah organization was Sister Elegance. So Sister Elegance was a sister that I studied with during my time in the organization, and she was so elegant. She was so graceful. She was so beautiful. She really inspired me. And what I really appreciated about Sister Elegance was she always made me feel like I was on her level. She never made me feel belittled or less than. It's like when I think of how me and her relationship was, it's like when you talk to a child who maybe did something and you get eye level with them and say you can't do that because XYZ. That's what I loved about her. She was just so inspirational, and she always made me feel like I was on her level. I would go over her house after school sometime, and I would sit with her, and she was always drinking coffee, and I was like, can I have some coffee? And I remember she would make me coffee, and she would mix it with hot chocolate, because she was like, well, Valerie, you're a little too young for coffee. But you know, she made me coffee, and she would mix it with hot chocolate, and she would put it in like a coffee cup. Like, she didn't put it in a plastic cup or a regular, you know, she would give it to me in a coffee cup, and we would be sitting up there drinking coffee. And I just felt so, like, I just felt like I was on her level. And I remember she would just like expose me to elegance. That's what I loved about her. She was so elegant, and she would expose me to luxury, you know. So I remember one time she was going to purchase a mink coat, and she took me with her, and we had went on like 95th and Dan Ryan in Chicago, and she went to go put the down payment on her mink coat. And I remember when she got the mink coat, and I promise you, ever since then I've always wanted a mink coat. Like, she was just, I really, really loved Sister Elegant. She was like really nice to me. So that was definitely a good thing. And Sister Sweets, she was very nice to me as well. She took me camping one time. She took me and these two good boys from her congregation camping, and her, I think it was like her niece, and we had so much fun. And I'll never forget, me and the two boys was in the car listening to music, and we looked up and Sister Sweets had jumped out the tent, and we were like, what's going on? And then her little niece came out the tent too, and they was just looking like, and I'm like, what's going on? So they get in the car with us, and we was like, what's wrong? And she said, I heard some ice melting inside the cooler. That's what she told us. So we like, okay, whatever, you know. So the headlights was off, so she can hear something, and she turned them headlights on. When I tell y'all, it was a family of raccoons in the cooler trying to steal our food. She got the honk in the horn. It was like 5 of them. They was just passing our food along to each other. It was so funny. I'll never forget that camping trip. So she was very, very sweet to me. I remember going over her to her home sometimes. I remember one time she made us lasagna, and this was when my brothers was kind of still with us, and she told one of my brothers, she said, baby, you can have as much lasagna you want. I say, don't tell him that, because he'll eat you out of the house and the home. But she definitely was like, you can eat as much as you like. But she was definitely really, really sweet. So those are some of the good things that I definitely remember about Jehovah's organization. Now let's talk about some of the bad. Okay, so one bad thing that I never really cared about in Jehovah's organization was disfellowship, being disfellowship. So basically, when you're disfellowship, that means nobody talks to you. Okay, you've done something wrong, you done something bad, you done something that's against the Bible, and nobody talks to you. It doesn't matter who they are. It could be your mama, it could be your daddy, it could be your sister, your cousin, your greasy grandmammy. They will not talk to you if you're disfellowship. And I remember the first time I heard about the word disfellowship, I was 13 years old, and this is when we first moved with the abusive auntie and my cousin and my uncle. And my cousin was telling us, you know, she would tell us stories, different stories about different people in the organization. And she was telling us about one girl who was part of the organization, and she did something. She was like, she's disfellowship now. And I was like, what does that mean, disfellowship? And she said that means nobody talks to her. And at 13, I thought to myself, That's horrible. I would never want to be a part of this organization. And that's what I thought. I was like, that is really bad. Like, that's not of God. That's really bad. And when I expressed that at 13, she said, well, that's Jehovah's loving provision. And you hear that a lot in Jehovah's organization. And I was like, there's nothing loving about that, you know. But I never really cared for that. It's like, that's horrible. So that was definitely really bad. Now Auntie Abuser mother was part of Jehovah's organization, but she was disfellowship. And I remember there was a time, it was my uncle, my cousin, and he had ran into a brother that he knew from the organization. And they were talking about Auntie Abuser mother. And they was like kind of laughing. And they was like, yeah, she be crying. Because she would go to the Kingdom Hall crying because she was disfellowship and nobody would talk to her. And I just thought to myself, like, what's funny? That's not funny. You know, this woman is hurt. Like, that's not funny to laugh at her when she's hurt. Like, you have this whole organization turn their back on you and you're laughing because she's crying because she's disfellowship. That's not funny. You know, so I always kind of looked at that or whatever. Another thing that I didn't care for is, like, my cousin, she will have these little conversations with me. And I feel like now that I'm older and I reflect, I know that she was grooming me in the organization. She was grooming me and I was being brainwashed to believe and think like a Jehovah Witness. So I remember one time I was looking at a magazine and I looked at the magazine, had a guy on there. I was like, oh, he's cute. That's all I said. Oh, he's cute. And she said, yeah, but you can't marry him. First of all, who's thinking about marriage? But she was like, yeah, but you can't marry him. And I'm like, why not? And she said, because he has a goatee. He had like a beard. And I'm like, that's weird. You know, I can't marry him because he has a beard. And then I remember another conversation we had where she came to me and she was like, what if you date a guy and things don't work out between you and him and y'all separate and break up and your best friend begins to date him? How would you feel? I'm like, that's not okay. She's like, but things didn't work out with you and him. Like, she would really try to convince me that that was okay. So the reason I'm saying that is because when it comes to Jehovah's organization, she taught me this. This is what my cousin taught me. She said the ratio is 3-to-1. Okay? For every one sister that's in the organization, no, for every one brother that's in the organization, there's 3 sisters to choose from. So the ratio is 3-to-1. There's not a lot of brothers in Jehovah's organization. So she tried to feed me this crap about if things don't work out between you and him and your friends start talking to him, then that's just the way it is. That is against the girl code. And I didn't agree with that. And I was like, no, that's not just the way it is, you know. So let's go back to my crush, TJ2. So again, I was a part of Jehovah's organization. I'm no longer a part of it. I was disfellowship. Okay. And my cousin, who is the child of Auntie Abuser, my auntie who abused me, she would sneak and talk to me. Even though she wasn't supposed to, she would, like, every blue moon. Not often, but every blue moon she'll reach out. She'll come by. How you doing? XYZ. And every time I see her, I would definitely ask about, like, people who go to the Kingdom Hall that I remember. Like, her friend, DE, I would ask about her. So this particular time she come to visit me, and I left Jehovah's organization when I was like 17. Okay, and I've been away from it for a very long time. So 17, she come see me. I was well into my 20s now. Okay, maybe middle early 20s. So I say, how is DE? You know, how's she doing? Remember, DE had a crush on TJ1, which is the oldest brother. And I had a crush on TJ2, which is the next to the oldest brother. And she's like, she's doing good right now. She's talking to TJ2. I say, my crush? And she's like, yeah, yo old crush, and everyone's against it, and they're telling her not to do it, and they're telling him it's not gonna be good. And I'm like, how did that come about? Because TJ1 went to Bethel. Bethel is like a big deal when you're part of Jehovah's organization. It's the headquarters of Jehovah's organization. It's where they print their magazines, and it's like, it's a big deal. If you're a Jehovah's Witness and you go to Bethel, that's good, okay? So he went to Bethel, and they end up telling her, you might as well find somebody else, because he gonna end up marrying him a Bethelite woman, okay? And it just brought me back to the ratio 3-to-1. Jehovah's organization is so small that this girl is now talking to the brother of the brother. Diabolical. So I thought that was bad. I thought that was like bad. It didn't make me feel any type of way, because I'm not crushing on this man still, but it just goes to show how small the organization is. Like, first she was crushing the oldest brother, and she really liked him a lot, and they liked each other. It wasn't just that she liked him, he liked her as well. They liked each other. And when he left and went to Bethel, she started talking to the brother, his brother. Diabolical, okay? Yeah, so that was bad, you know. Now let's dive into some of the ugly. The ugliest part about being in Jehovah's organization was the abuse I endured from the abusive auntie. That was the most ugliest part of being in Jehovah's organization. And it hurt so much, because this is an organization that's supposed to be founded on God's love. And I never felt that, you know. But she was definitely abusive. Like, every time I go past a Kingdom Hall, I think about my first time being hit. And the first time she hit me was in the Kingdom Hall, okay? So, I remember we was at the Kingdom Hall, and we was at the meeting, and I was sitting there with my arms folded, looking all mad, right? And that was because, for one, I'm a young girl. I had to be like 13. I'm dealing with a lot. I have a mom who's battling addiction. She not present in my life right now. She's trying to get her life together. We've lost our home at this point. My mom and I and my siblings, we lost our home. You know, I'm living with my uncle and his abusive wife. We going to the Kingdom Hall, which I'm not used to, because I personally used to go to church before I went to the Kingdom Hall. On my own, I enjoyed going to church. So now you take me out of my situation, and I'm vlogging. You take me out of my situation. You put me into the Kingdom Hall. It was a cultural shock to me to be taken out of my environment. So I was sitting at the meeting, because the meetings were really boring. That's another thing. The meetings were so boring. So I was sitting there with my arms folded up, and she nudging me and, you know, doing like that. What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? Go to the bathroom. So she take me to the bathroom, and I was kind of crying at this point. And she, what's wrong with you? And I remember exactly what I told her. I said, I do not like people who are not my mother putting their hands on me. And she just started hitting me again. I'll never forget. I'll never forget. Every time I pass the Kingdom Hall, I think about how she did that to me. 2 other times she put her hands on me. I'll never forget. This woman slapped